Exclusively for Hampton Roads, Cox Communications presents Cox Business Television.
Hello and welcome to Cox Business Television. I'm Mike Brand. This show is about leaders empowering leaders. As a business leader, you need to know what's going on in the world and the community around you. In the pilot world, we called it having situational awareness. Here at CBTV, we help you improve your situational awareness by talking with experts and other business leaders right here in our studio. And with a new year comes a chance to take a fresh new look at the business climate and the health of our own operations. That was a topic at our most recent executive discussion series presented in partnership with Inside Business. We called it New Tools, New Rules for the New Year. And there are a lot of ideas shared about ways to take a fresh approach in 2012. But the one thing that kept coming up again and again was technology. This year, many are looking for ways to make advances like social media, crowdsourcing, and the cloud work for them. With all this innovation and the new technology, what do we need to know about leveraging it and applying it to our own businesses? We now turn to two experts to help us do just that. Tom Walker is the president of WebTex, a regional IT management and web development firm, and Tony Stubbs is the vice president of IT for Cox, Virginia. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
At the seminar, Tom, there was a lot of topics, and you really brought to bear all the things about social media and those type of things. But you're also a CEO of a company, a president of a company. What are the top three things that really any president should be asking of its organizations starting off the new year right now?
Well, generally that's a tough question, right? Because there's so many different technologies and so many different niche industries. But I think we have an advantage this year that there are really three things that people need to focus on. And they're easy to understand and they're easy to get their head around and understand the impacts of their business. Number one is mobile, obviously. There are more mobile devices in the United States now than there are people. And it is the fastest adoption of any technology in the history of our country. So if you're not focused on mobile, you're already behind. Two is social media, not just outside of your organization as a marketing tool, but inside of your organization as a collaboration tool. And then third is the cloud, obviously a little harder to understand at the executive level, but equally as important.
Okay. And Tony, from a social media perspective and all the tools, what are some of the ideas as you're looking at here for how you're looking at recommending people integrate social media and the apps and all these other, how does one make this work?
You know, I think that businesses need to understand that, as Tom mentioned, with mobility being so ingrained, that they need to make sure that they have apps that will be able to work on some of these mobile devices. And they also are utilizing social media to be able to reach their clients and customers. We have the opportunity to tweet and to use Facebook to be able to get what we're selling out there in front of people. And so I think that we've got lots of opportunities utilizing social media and integrating that with business today.
Okay. And one thing I didn't know, but I picked up at the seminar, was that just because I have a website doesn't mean that it's easily used on a mobile device. You have to have some customization. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, you have to understand, a lot of people say, well, now with the new smartphones, I can pull up any website on a smartphone and it works. Fundamentally, it looks the same. But what we have to understand is the way that people interact with a website when you're using a keyboard and a mouse, and the way that you're interacting with a website when you have the smaller screen, and the way we initiate and do things is different. So you don't necessarily have to have a new site or a different site, or interface, even if it's a web application, say it's a work application, but you need to make sure that the interface on the mobile is usable in the format and behavioral style that people are used to on that device.
Okay. And I know for years, as managers, as leaders, we're always concerned about productivity, and a lot of times it's been thought that if one of our employees is doing social media during the day or anything like that, that it's actually a negative. And one of the things we brought up during the seminar was that maybe this is the leader's issue to get over, and that to embrace this idea of allowing our employees to do things during the day. Tony, how have you seen that to be an opportunity and or a challenge?
I think that as we look at probably 50% of the people that had laptops putting their laptops aside and using mobile devices, tablets, smartphones, PDAs, to be able to access and do work. That as they are using those devices, they're integrating some of their social media into their work time as well. And so I think that it's a benefit versus a hindrance. We've got to get away from saying, well, they're taking away from work time. And there's opportunity by them understanding how those tools are used.
Right.
And how they can utilize them within the business. So it's not just about personal anymore.
Right. You know, one of the things I think we've all kind of known, but haven't really maybe admitted as much as leaders, is that by having these devices, they're probably also being plugged in at home so that you're getting more productivity, but maybe just not always between 8 and 5. It really is a productivity device. I know now I'm an iPhone user after Christmas, and so I'm able to do things at home and at work and even while I was on vacation that truly now keep me more plugged in. So I think it might be a leadership issue that we really need to deal with in how we can take the tools for today, but even the tools for the rest of this year and integrate them into this work-life balance. But with those things, does it bring certain challenges like security? Is security an issue that both the small size company and the large size company needs to understand and how this all plays together?
I think it is a concern, and obviously it's a concern from the leader's standpoint to understand what are we allowing them to do when we say we're going to create a policy or develop a policy. But one thing you have to understand is, and this is where I think leadership tends to miss the mark a little bit, is the reason that people go home and they engage in social media, the reason it's become so popular is because of this concept of excess intellectual capital. They leave work at the end of the day and they've got ideas, they've got things they want to share. If we allow their access to the work social media environment at home, you actually increase the probability that they're going to utilize some of that excess intellectual capital towards the work environment as well. Okay. So it's got to be a balance. You cannot say you cannot access or have any social media activity all day long, but we're going to give you an opportunity to help us as a business once you go home. It's got to be a continuous. And then with regards to the question about security, it's like anything else. You've got to create a policy. You wouldn't let, they could bring cameras in, they could bring recording devices in. There's so many ways that, and as we were talking about earlier, thumb drives and everything else, create a policy, enforce the policy, and foster a sense of responsibility.
Okay. And Tony, from your perspective, what are some of these key tools or apps that really you're focusing that you think could be best used in 2012 to really maximize the way we do work or the way that we lead?
Yeah, I think that mobility and tablets and personal devices are something that we're going to see in 2012 continue to increase and increase productivity. It gives accessibility at the fingertips. And so as we look into this year and beyond, really tablets and mobile devices are something that I think we're going to see really change as Apple has changed the interface and how we do things.
Very cool. And Tom, from leader to leader, any things you would share with another CEO right now or the leader in a small company as well, large company, that just would be an insight to say, brother, look out here, or here's what I'm doing to really do something X?
Well, as I said, I push mobile. I want to talk about mobile. I want to talk about social media. One of the things that I tell people that sometimes gets their attention is you have to understand that, as I said, mobile access to the internet is the fastest growing platform in the history of technology. More importantly, and if you look at just the mobile sales online on Christmas Day, the revenue generated through mobile sales Christmas Day was 174% over last year. Wow. Last year it was up 4%. This year it was up 174%. If you're not thinking mobile, if you're not figuring out how to engage your employees and your prospects via mobile, then you're already behind.
Very cool. Well, I really thank you all very much. You've given us great insight, great perspective. I thank you for your leadership, both in your community and also in your companies, and I look forward to talking with you again real soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Coming up, from hardware to soft skills, a look at what business can learn from the military. Stay with us.
The agency has a lot of problems, especially when it comes to human spaceflight. We can't get people from here to Mars without dosing them with some really nasty radiation or keeping them alive for a long time, which is why we're sending robots. And we've had these problems for the last 50 years. Well, we got to start looking in different places. So that's where we go to what's called crowdsourcing. And the premise here is that in order for a company to exceed, it must leverage the innovations of its competitors in order to move forward. The last thing you want to be is insular in your thinking. And whether I find an idea that is in a garage in Melbourne, Florida, or Melbourne, Australia, is still the same idea, and I can take that idea, I can leverage and do something really good.
To find out how you can join the next executive discussion series and see clips from past CBTV shows, go online to the Small Business Navigation Program presented by Cox Business, providing your business with the tools to succeed.